I understand simultaneous time intellectually. Past, present, future, all exist now. But I want the advanced application. How do I actually change the past? How do I heal a childhood wound, not just emotionally, but at the level of the event itself? And what about ancestral patterns, beliefs, and traumas that run in my family line? Can I heal those too?
You can change the past from the present. The past is not a done deal.
Wow. Okay, I want us to just really sit with that statement for a moment before we go any further, because, well, it's huge.
It completely upends everything, doesn't it?
It really does. If we take that seriously, it shatters the whole foundation of how we're taught to perceive reality. From the moment we're born, we are conditioned to believe time is just this, like, one-way street.
Right, a relentless march forward.
Exactly. We're taught the past is locked in some impenetrable vault, the ink is dry, the concrete is set. And the absolute best we can do with a painful history is just learn to manage the symptoms.
Learn to cope, essentially.
Yeah, learn to cope. But in this deep dive, we are throwing that entire paradigm completely out the window. We're moving way beyond just the theoretical philosophy of time.
Because the mission for you, the listener, today is to explore the advanced, literal practice of changing your past.
And we're not just stopping at personal history, right? We're taking it a massive step further.
Oh, absolutely. We are going to explore the mechanics of healing entire ancestral lines. And to do this, we are relying exclusively on the very specific frameworks laid out in the Seth material as channeled by Jane Roberts.
Which is just an incredible body of work.
It is. Specifically, we're pulling from The Unknown Reality, Volume 2, The Nature of Personal Reality, Seth Speaks, and The Way Toward Health. The whole objective here is to give you the exact blueprint to use what Seth calls your present point of power.
To physically, emotionally, and electromagnetically rewrite your history. Which, let's be honest, it sounds a bit like science fiction at first glance.
It definitely sounds like a sci-fi movie.
But the deeper I got into the sources for this deep dive, the more it read like a rigorous, multi-dimensional physics manual for human consciousness.
That is the perfect way to describe it. But to start, we really have to do some demolition work on our old beliefs.
Yeah, because if we don't dismantle this conventional understanding of time right now, nothing else we talk about today is going to hold any weight.
It just won't stick. We have to thoroughly break down this persistent illusion of the fixed past. That's the necessary ground floor.
So where does Seth start with that demolition?
Well, when you study The Nature of Personal Reality and the advanced sessions in The Unknown Reality, Volume 2, Seth is incredibly emphatic. He teaches that the past is absolutely not a fixed objective record.
Not a dusty history book sitting on a library shelf.
Exactly. The pages aren't yellowing, the words aren't permanent. The past is instead this living, breathing, highly active electromagnetic pattern.
And wait, that pattern is constantly being held within our inner self's energy field.
Yes, it is constantly maintained in that inner field.
Okay, I want to dissect that phrase you just used, electromagnetic pattern. Because usually when we think of a memory, we just think of it as a psychological ghost.
Right, like a faint echo.
Yeah, a phantom picture in our heads of something that is dead and gone. But Seth is actually arguing that memory has literal energetic substance.
He's saying it has mass and frequency. It's a crucial distinction. He means your memories and your past experiences as you perceive them have an ongoing vitality. They are energetic structures that exist now.
Existing now. That's the simultaneous time aspect.
Exactly. And because they are energetic structures rather than, solid physical objects, they are highly malleable.
So they can be bent. They can be altered.
Altered entirely. Your present beliefs, your current emotional states, your daily focal points, they are all constantly actively interacting with that pattern of the past.
Okay, when I was going through our notes for this, I kept trying to find a good way to visualize this because the dusty book thing wasn't working for me anymore.
Did you find a better analogy?
I think so. I think we need to compare our personal history not to a printed novel, but to an open, shared digital document in the cloud. You know what I mean?
Oh, like a Google Doc or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Where you can see the little blinking cursors of other people typing and making edits in real time.
That is a really functional way to look at it, actually, because it perfectly highlights the ongoing interaction.
Right, because a printed book is totally finished. You could, highlight a passage or tear a page out if you're mad at it, but you can't fundamentally change the words the publisher printed.
The structure is locked.
But a cloud document is entirely live. The underlying code is active. As long as you have that document open on your screen, you can scroll right back to page 1 and just rewrite the entire opening paragraph.
And the past, according to Seth's framework, is exactly that live document. As long as you are interacting with it from the present moment, which you are constantly through your beliefs, the code remains entirely editable.
Editable code. That brings us to what I think is the most critical concept in the nature of personal reality, doesn't it?
Yes, the present point of power. Seth states unequivocally that the present is the point of power.
How does he define the present exactly in this context?
He defines it as the literal intersection point where flesh and matter meet with the multidimensional spirit. It's the action point.
Okay, so because that digital document of my past is live, my current beliefs are basically the operating system formatting it.
That's right. When you shift a core belief in the present, that electromagnetic pattern of the past doesn't just passively sit there, it dynamically reorganizes itself to align with the new belief.
Now, I want to make sure we are being incredibly precise here for you listening, because when people hear change the past, I feel like the immediate assumption is just, psychological reframing.
This sort of look on the bright side approach.
Exactly. Like, oh, that terrible thing happened to me, but I'm choosing to see how it made me resilient, which is fine. But we're talking about something much, much more profound than a positive spin, aren't we?
We are talking about fundamentally different mechanics. Seth is very clear. This is not psychological denial.
It's not pretending it didn't hurt.
No, and it's not retreating into a fantasy to avoid pain either. He is describing the literal mechanics of consciousness intersecting with cellular memory.
Cellular memory. That's where it gets wild.
It does. He argues that your cells themselves possess a form of precognition and historical awareness. They operate outside of our strict linear time framework.
Wait, let's explore that. Cellular precognition. What does that actually mean for my body sitting here right now?
Well, think about your physical body.
Okay, looking at my hand right now. Are the cells in my skin simultaneously aware of what happened 10 years ago and what might happen next week?
In Seth's framework, yes. Your body is not just a meat machine marching forward second by second. Your cellular structure is a massive, multi-dimensional receiver.
So the cells are communicating across time.
Constantly. They maintain their integrity by communicating across the entirety of your lifespan. They hold the energetic blueprint of your past states, sure, but they are also reaching into probable futures to draw energy backward.
It's mind-bending.
Because they operate in this fluid state, when you drastically change your emotional and electromagnetic output in the present, you are sending a completely new set of instructions throughout that entire cellular network.
So my cells literally update their historical data to match my new present reality.
Exactly. The biology of your past physicalizes differently based on the psychology of your present.
Okay, I need to ground this with a concrete scenario because the theory is so massive. Let's go back to the exact question I asked at the very beginning of the deep dive.
The childhood wound.
Yes. Let's say you, the listener, have this deep childhood wound, a really specific, visceral memory of feeling profoundly unloved, maybe a severe rejection by a parent.
A very common, very heavy burden.
Right. In the conventional model, that event is just a permanent scar on your timeline. It happened, it damaged you, and 30 years later you're carrying the scar tissue. How does Seth's present point of power mechanic apply to that specific wound?
Let's trace the energy of it. You have this childhood memory. Like you said, conventionally, it's a fixed point of origin. But using Seth's mechanics, your present moment is the only true center of activity.
So me, sitting in my living room today, I'm the center.
Yes. If you do the profound internal work to truly, fundamentally realize and believe that you are lovable, if you embody that new frequency at your absolute core, you alter the energetic resonance of the past.
Because the code of that live cloud document has to update to match the new operating system I'm running.
Precisely. The old frequency of I am fundamentally unloved simply cannot coexist in the same continuous biological network as I am unconditionally lovable.
They cancel each other out. Or rather, the new one overwrites the old one.
The new one reorganizes the old one. The event itself might remain in your conscious memory. You still remember the room, the harsh words, but its emotional charge entirely dissolves.
The sting is gone.
More importantly, its biological cellular impact on your present nervous system dissolves. And at deeper multidimensional levels, Seth argues that the event itself is literally altered.
Meaning the probabilities shift.
Yes. You draw a different version, a different resonance of that past event into your current reality.
So you reach back through the open document and rewrite the foundational code of your own biography. The event loses its power because, energetically speaking, the event as you originally experienced it no longer exists.
It has been completely overwritten by your present point of power.
Okay, that covers the personal past.
Well,
But this brings me to the second half of my opening question. Because as heavy as our own baggage is, we don't just carry our own stuff, do we?
no, we carry the invisible generational baggage of everyone who came before us.
Exactly. So what happens when the wound didn't even start with you? What if it started 3 generations ago? Can we heal ancestral patterns?
This is where we have to dive heavily into the advanced material from the Unknown Reality Volume 2. Seth extends this whole concept to explain the mechanics of genetic and ancestral memory.
So it's not just my memories that are living patterns.
Right. Just as your personal memories are living electromagnetic patterns, the deep-seated beliefs, the unhealed traumas, and even the triumphs of your family line are held as electromagnetic patterns within your family's collective inner field.
Okay, so going back to our analogy, if my personal past is a digital document, my ancestral line is like a massive shared family network drive.
That's a great way to put it. We are all working off the same inherited code. It's a shared biological and psychological tapestry.
But how can we possibly change something that happened long before we were even born?
To understand that, we have to pull in a core concept from Seth Speaks, the simultaneous nature of time.
Right, because in our waking lives, we're forced to experience time linearly,
Yeah.
past, present, future.
Because that's how our physical brains organize sensory input, so we don't just get completely overwhelmed by everything happening at once.
But Seth insists that from the larger perspective of the soul, all time is simultaneous. It's all happening right now.
Yes, parallel to us,
Yeah.
in what he beautifully calls the spacious present.
Okay, I really need to wrap my head around this spacious present idea, because linearly, I think of my great-great-grandfather as being gone. He lived in the 1800s, he died, his time is over.
That's the linear illusion.
So simultaneous time suggests
What?
that the 1800s is just another room in the house I'm currently living in.
That is a highly accurate way to conceptualize it. Your past ancestors are not gone in the sense of being extinguished. Their reality is just adjacent to yours.
They are existing now.
Right now, in their own coordinate point of the spacious present. And because there is a direct energetic lineage connecting your present moment to their present moment, the lines of communication are wide open.
Because of that shared network drive.
Exactly. Because of that shared network, you can actually send healing energy, deep compassion, and entirely new beliefs back to the ancestors who originated a negative family pattern.
Because they aren't dead and buried in the past.
Yeah.
They are actively alive, experiencing their reality and processing energy right now, just in a different frequency channel.
Yes. And when you use your present point of power to send a new high coherence frequency like compassion back through that lineage, it literally intersects with their live experience.
It alters the collective pattern right at the root.
Right at the source. And because energy flows continuously through these familial lines, that action creates a huge ripple effect.
It changes the inheritance for everyone.
It literally changes the biological, emotional, and psychological inheritance that you and the generations that come after you receive.
So I'm not just healing myself. I'm actively upgrading the family software for the entire network.
You are.
This is, it's incredibly expansive in theory. But I really want to bring this down to earth for a minute. Because I know how it feels to listen to these massive metaphysical concepts.
It can feel a bit detached from daily life.
Yeah, you hear simultaneous time and altering the space-time continuum of your ancestors, and you think, okay, that sounds beautiful, but how on earth does a normal, flawed human being actually put this into practice?
Which is exactly why we need to look at the human being who delivered this material, Jane Roberts.
Right, because Jane didn't just channel this philosophy like a robot. She had to aggressively wrestle with it in her own messy life.
Her personal journey is vital to this whole discussion. It provides the empirical proof that this isn't just an abstract intellectual exercise. Jane lived this struggle.
And she documented it, right?
Extensively, particularly in the periods surrounding the channeling of the way toward health.
Let's really look at her earthly reality during that time. If we go through the notes from Rob, her husband, who transcribed all the sessions, Jane had a profoundly difficult, painful relationship with her mother.
We aren't just talking about mild family disagreements here.
No, her mother was incredibly demanding. She suffered from severe rheumatoid arthritis, and was bedridden for a huge portion of Jane's early life.
The dynamic was intensely heavy. Jane was essentially forced into this role of caretaker at a very young age.
And her mother was entirely reliant on her, but also highly critical, from what I read.
Very critical and emotionally volatile. Jane felt deeply burdened by this. She felt resentful. She felt trapped by the history of their relationship.
Which brought up a lot of guilt, I imagine.
A tremendous, suffocating amount of guilt sitting right alongside that deep anger.
Which is just such a deeply relatable, very human experience. It's like the ultimate spiritual paradox.
How so?
Well, here is Jane Roberts, sitting in her apartment in Elmira, New York, channeling Seth, this incredibly expansive, multidimensional entity who speaks so beautifully about the glorious freedom of the soul and the unlimited power of consciousness. And meanwhile, the channeler herself is like grinding her teeth, feeling totally suffocated by her mother's endless demands, feeling like an absolute victim of her traumatic upbringing.
It is the ultimate stress test of the philosophy. I mean, you can channel the secrets of the universe all day, but can you use them to forgive your mother?
That's the real test. So how did she do it?
Through Seth's guidance, Jane was eventually forced to apply these exact theories to her own open, bleeding emotional wounds. Drawing heavily on the concepts from Seth Speaks, Jane had to fundamentally shift her perspective on reincarnation and the true nature of their relationship.
How did she even begin to make that shift? Because transitioning from "my mother ruined my life" to "I am the creator of my reality" is, I mean, that's a massive leap.
She had to stop viewing her mother merely as a victimizer. Seth teaches a concept that is often very, very difficult for the human ego to accept, the idea of pre-birth agreements.
Oh, this is a heavy one.
It is. He posits that before we enter physical reality, we make conscious soul-level agreements. We actively choose our parents, our historical time periods, our specific environments.
We choose the challenges.
Exactly. To set up the precise frictions we need for our overall spiritual expansion. So Jane had to entertain this radical idea that she and her mother had made an agreement before this lifetime.
That her mother agreed to be difficult.
Yes, that her mother had agreed to play this incredibly difficult, highly charged, antagonistic role specifically to push Jane toward her ultimate psychic and spiritual development.
Okay, I have to stop you there. I have to push back on this concept because we really need to handle this carefully.
Absolutely. Let's unpack it.
Because if I'm listening to this and I have survived severe abuse or severe neglect, hearing the phrase, "you made a pre-birth agreement to experience this," sounds incredibly toxic.
I understand why it sounds that way.
It sounds dangerously close to victim blaming, like a spiritual bypass that gives abusers a free pass because, hey, we agreed to this before we were born. How does Seth's framework account for the actual visceral trauma of physical reality without just totally blaming the victim?
I am so glad you stopped us here because this is the exact edge where metaphysical theory can cause deep psychological harm if it isn't unpacked correctly. Seth is actually incredibly nuanced on this point.
So how does he distinguish it?
He makes a firm, hard distinction between the larger multidimensional entity and the physical, earthly ego.
Break it down for me.
The agreement is made at the level of the larger entity, the soul, which is looking to expand its understanding of energy and compassion. It is setting a stage. It is creating a curriculum.
Okay, a curriculum.
But that does not excuse the actions of the individual in physical reality. Seth states explicitly that we are completely responsible for our energy in the physical world.
So the abuse is still wrong.
Absolutely. If a parent chooses to be abusive, they are generating negative probabilities and severely limiting their own expansion. They are fully responsible for that action. The pre-birth agreement is not a script that forces someone to be cruel.
It's just the establishment of a dynamic.
Exactly. It's the setting. So the soul chooses the difficult classroom, but the people in the classroom still have total free will to act with cruelty or kindness.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. The purpose of understanding the pre-birth agreement isn't to say, hey, the abuse was okay.
No, never.
The purpose is to move the survivor out of that paralyzing state of victimhood.
Yes. As long as Jane viewed herself solely as a helpless victim of her mother's cruelty, her energy was completely trapped in the past.
She had no agency.
Right. By accepting the larger soul-level collaboration, she reclaimed her agency. She wasn't a passive object that was damaged. She was an active participant in a profound spiritual curriculum. It shifts the power dynamic entirely back to her in the present.
Reclaiming the locus of control. Moving from, look what you did to me, to look at what I am learning to overcome.
Exactly.
So once Jane made that intellectual, philosophical shift, how did she move to the practical application? Because intellectual understanding doesn't automatically heal the nervous system, does it?
No, it doesn't. It requires active, energetic work. Jane didn't just sit there and passively try to force herself to forgive her mother. She actively utilized the mechanics of simultaneous time that we discussed earlier.
What did the actual practice look like for her sitting in her living room?
Jane used her imagination. And remember, Seth insists imagination is not just daydreaming. It is a primary, literal tool of reality creation. She used it to actively send a different frequency of energy backward through the timeline.
So she visualized her mother.
Yes, but when she visualized her mother, she didn't focus her energy on the bitter, demanding, bedridden older woman in Elmira.
Who did she focus on?
She tuned her focus to her mother's younger self. She sought out the coordinate point in the spacious present where her mother was just a young woman who was terrified, who felt completely trapped by her own circumstances, and who was in physical pain.
Oh, wow. She bypassed the defensive armor.
Entirely. And from her present point of power, Jane visualized her mother feeling supported. She visualized her feeling valued, safe, and deeply understood.
She spoke directly to the frightened core. Going back to our cloud document analogy, she essentially reached into the shared family network and injected a completely new line of code pure compassion right into her mother's active timeline.
She disrupted the frequency of fear. That is precisely the mechanism.
And did it work? What was the result?
The result of this sustained practice was profound. Over time, Jane documented that her own emotional wounds, that deep-seated chronic anger, the suffocating guilt, began to lift.
Just evaporated.
It wasn't just a mental trick. It profoundly impacted her physical reality and her nervous system. She began to experience an unprecedented peace with her history. By changing her present emotional output and directing it toward the simultaneous past, she had, in effect, electromagnetically and psychologically changed her past.
The history remained, but it no longer had a toxic, restrictive grip on her present body.
Exactly.
The trauma was neutralized, the energy was freed up. But, I want to speak directly to you, the listener, for a moment, because while this concept is absolutely liberating, it is also, frankly, terrifying.
Why do you say terrifying?
Because if we accept this, if we accept that we can literally rewrite the energetic impact of our past, we have to give up the comfort of the victim narrative. And let's be fiercely honest with ourselves here. There's a strange, cozy comfort in being a victim. If your life is difficult, if you are struggling with money or relationships or anxiety, and you can point back and say, well, it's because my parents messed me up, or it's because my ancestors were traumatized, you are off the hook.
You don't have to take responsibility.
Right. You don't have to take full, crushing responsibility for your current limitations. The blame is safely outsourced. But Seth's entire philosophy is violently stripping that comfort away from us.
He's saying, no, you are not a helpless cork bobbing on the ocean of history. You have the power to rewrite the code right now.
And in exchange for giving up that comfort of victimhood, you are handed total, absolute creative control over your personal reality, which is an incredibly heavy responsibility.
It is the ultimate responsibility. It is the very core of Seth's message. You are learning to be conscious co-creators of reality. You are learning to handle the raw energy that is yourself. It requires immense, profound courage to look at a deeply painful past, put down the shield of blame and say, I am going to take the wheel now. I am going to change the frequency.
So let's talk about exactly how we take that wheel. We've explored the theory. We've talked about Jane's specific personal example. But I want to move to a generalized, powerful, step-by-step technique that you, listening, can use right now to rewrite your own lineage. Let's transition into the actual practice.
Let's do it. We can call this advanced application ancestral healing through simultaneous time. This isn't just a basic meditation. It is a synthesis of the specific energetic mechanics Seth outlines in The Unknown Reality, built into a structured visualization.
Okay, walk us through this step by step. If I want to do this tonight, what is the very first thing I need to do?
Step 1 is identification and isolation. You need to identify a specific limiting belief or emotional pattern that clearly runs in your family line.
Just one.
Yes. The key here is not to try and boil the ocean. Do not try to heal all of your family's dysfunction at once. Pick one distinct thread. Is it a deeply ingrained mindset of financial scarcity? Is it a paralyzing fear of failure or taking risks? Is it a generational pattern of emotional repression where anger is never expressed safely? Pinpoint the single pattern.
Okay, let's use an example to really anchor this for the listener. I have my pattern. Let's say it's a profound chronic fear of scarcity, a feeling that runs in my family that there is never enough. Never enough money, food, or safety, no matter how hard anyone works. I've identified the thread. What next?
Step 2. Sit quietly. Ground yourself in your physical body and close your eyes. You are going to use your imagination to intentionally open the corridor of time.
Okay, visualizing the corridor.
I want you to imagine a line of your ancestors stretching backward behind you. See them fading back into the distance, generation after generation, connected by an invisible thread.
I am visualizing a long, echoing hallway, or maybe like a path winding back through a dense, ancient forest, and I can see figures standing along the path.
Both are excellent spatial representations. Step 3. As you look down that line, allow your intuition to sense the specific ancestor who first deeply internalized this belief.
Do I need to know their name?
You don't need to know their historical name, and you don't even need a clear picture of their face. Just sense the density of their presence. And as you locate them, you must recognize this crucial humanizing fact. This limiting belief was almost certainly born from a traumatic historical event.
Right, it didn't come from nowhere.
It was forged in the brutal fire of a literal war or a devastating famine or a profound loss.
That shifts the perspective entirely. This scarcity mindset wasn't a malicious curse they decided to place on their descendants.
No, it was a vital survival mechanism. In their specific moment in time, hoarding resources or living in constant fear is what kept their physical bodies alive.
But now, generations later, the environment has changed, and that survival armor has become a suffocating prison for me in the present.
Precisely. So, step 4. You must consciously shift your view of this ancestor. You cannot look at them as a perpetrator who infected your bloodline with anxiety. You must see them as a deeply suffering human being who is doing their absolute best to survive in a tremendously difficult physical reality.
They adopted that heavy armor because they thought it was the only way to protect themselves and the children that would follow them.
Exactly. So step 5 is where the actual energetic alteration occurs. In your mind's eye, from your safe, stable vantage point in the present moment, you are going to send them a wave of deep compassion and understanding.
You are acknowledging the reality of their struggle without taking on their fear.
Yes.
Why compassion specific? Why not just send a mental command to, delete the pattern?
Because in sets physics, resistance breeds persistence. If you try to aggressively delete or fight the pattern, you are engaging with it using the frequency of conflict, which only solidifies the energy. Compassion is a highly coherent, organizing frequency. It acts as a solvent.
A solvent. I like that.
It melts the rigid electromagnetic structure of fear.
That makes perfect sense. And here is where we apply the specific phrasing from our sources. If you are doing this practice, we want you to silently, intentionally say these exact words to that specific ancestor. Memorize this phrasing. Speak directly to them across the spacious present and say, I see your pain. I honor your strength. I release this pattern with love. It no longer serves our line.
Let the gravity of those words resonate through the visualization. I see your pain. I honor your strength. I release this pattern with love. It no longer serves our line.
What is happening energetically when we articulate that?
Step 6 is completing the circuit. As you say those words, imagine a brilliant, warm light flowing outward from your heart center. See this high-frequency light traveling backward down that line of ancestors in the forest or the hallway.
Sending the patch.
Watch it reach that specific individual, illuminating them in the darkness. See the light actively healing and transforming that dense, fearful pattern right at its root in their simultaneous present. You are giving them the energetic relief they couldn't access in their own time.
It really is like finding the exact node on the family network that has the corrupted file and sending a targeted update patch to clear the error.
It is a profound act of multidimensional restructuring. And finally, step 7. Bring your full attention completely back to your own physical body in your present room.
Back to the now.
Feel the physical release. Notice if your shoulders naturally drop away from your ears. Notice if your breathing suddenly deepens into your diaphragm. Feel the unschooling of that ancient tension in your own cells. Because the energetic pattern has been fundamentally altered at the root, the outermost branch of the tree, which is you, in the present, immediately feels the biological effect.
And to permanently anchor this entire practice, there's a specific quote from Seth that encapsulates the exact mechanism of everything we just did.
Yes. Keep this etched in your mind whenever you doubt your agency, Seth says. The point of power is now. From this point, you can heal the past and shape the future.
The point of power is now. It is such an elegant, irreducible truth. But as we know, intellectually understanding a metaphysical tool is absolutely not the same as taking it out of the toolbox and actually using it.
No, you have to do the work.
We want you to prove these mechanics to yourself. We want you to test the physics. So we are transitioning this grand multidimensional visualization into a concrete, immediate homework assignment.
We are giving you a specific 24-hour exercise. Here is the assignment. Sometime within the next week, we want you to set aside the time to actually do this ancestral healing meditation. But here's the critical constraint. Just do it once.
Wait, if this is so powerful, why just once?
Yeah.
Shouldn't I do it every day to really clean house?
No, just once this week. And you must focus on a single, isolated, limiting family pattern. Do not go into this meditation trying to heal 5 generations of complex, interlocking dysfunction in one 20-minute sitting.
If I try to overhaul the entire family tree, what happens?
You will trigger massive resistance from your own ego. The physical body and the conscious mind can only process so much energetic shifting at once. If you try to do too much, you will overwhelm your nervous system and your ego will snap back with intense doubt and anxiety to protect the status quo.
It'll just reject the update entirely.
Exactly. Pick one pattern. Just scarcity, just anger, just the fear of illness. Keep the variable isolated.
Okay, so the listener says a timer, they do the medication, they isolate the variable, they send the compassion backward. Then what? The meditation is over, they open their eyes.
The immediate integration is critical. We have a journaling component. Immediately after you finish the meditation and open your eyes, grab a physical pen and paper, not a screen.
Why not a screen?
The tactile physical act of writing grounds the multidimensional energy back into physical reality faster. We want you to write down the answers to 2 specific prompts while the energy is still fluid.
What are the prompts?
Prompt number 1, what did I sense? Did you see a specific image of a landscape? Did you feel a sudden, unexpected emotion like deep sorrow or perhaps immense relief?
And prompt 2?
Prompt number 2, what shifted in my physical body or emotions? Did your stomach suddenly settle? Did a chronic tension headache disappear? Document the immediate physical and psychological aftermath.
This is really about making the invisible process visible. You're pulling the subjective experience down into objective, recorded reality.
Precisely.
And then we step back into the chaos of the daily physical world. Here is what you need to actively look out for in your life over the following days. Notice if you suddenly just feel lighter. Notice if that specific family pattern seems to have slightly less of a psychological or emotional grip on you.
You have to pay close attention.
For example, if your pattern was scarcity and a situation arises that usually triggers a full-blown panic attack about money, do you suddenly feel a tiny bit of space? Do you notice a brief moment of choice, a pause that absolutely wasn't there last week?
You are looking for those subtle qualitative shifts in the official reality. That space is the evidence of the new code running.
Exactly. I want you to frame this entire exercise as a rigorous scientific observation of your own consciousness. You are the scientist, and your daily life is the laboratory. You went into the cloud document, you altered the code at the root. Now step back, watch the program run, and observe the output.
It is a profound experiment in selfhood. When you begin to see the actual results, you begin to realize the sheer vastness of your own being. You realize that you are not a helpless cork bobbing on the surface of the ocean of time. You are the ocean itself.
I love that imagery. Looking back at the incredible journey we've taken in this deep dive, pulling from these profound Seth texts, it leaves me with an overwhelming sense of agency. The ultimate realization we are striving for here is that you are not just a passive victim of your history. You are not just the tragic endpoint of a long, unbroken line of genetic and psychological trauma.
You are an active, multidimensional, time-traveling healer of your own lineage.
By utilizing the point of present power, you redeem not just yourself, but the entire network of consciousness you are intimately connected to. You change the past to free the future.
It fundamentally changes everything about how you wake up in the morning and view your own life.
It really does. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final, mind-bending concept to ponder on your own time.
Oh, this is a good one.
We have spent the last hour talking all about how you, from your vantage point in the present, can reach back through the corridor of simultaneous time to send healing and compassion to your ancestors. But if time truly is open-ended, fluid, and simultaneous in all directions, is it possible that your future, more highly evolved, deeply integrated self is right now reaching back through time to send profound healing, intuition, and comfort to you in this exact moment?
Think about that deeply the next time you get an inexplicable flash of comfort during a really hard day or a sudden brilliant idea out of nowhere. Where is it really coming from?
Exactly. Let that sit with you. Pay attention to the echoes. And that brings us to the absolute edge of what we can cover today.
Next time, we go deep into Framework 2 as the creative matrix. We'll learn the precise mechanics of how events are formed and how to ev.